tenants, eviction, and the ugly side of real estate investing that no one really talks about. Hey, gang, this is Mike with MrNoFluff.com, and I've seen landlording from two sides. As someone that owned a brokerage firm and managed many people's investors and accidental landlords' rental properties, I saw landlord from that window of life. And I've also seen landlording from my own rental properties that I've owned. So since 2016, I'm sorry, since 2006, 2007, I've been involved in buying real estate and renting them out. And I've also, like I said, owned the real estate brokerage firm that I had real estate agents working for me. And we managed many properties for commercial all the way down to residential, okay, what I call accidental landlords. So I've learned and I've seen a lot of different things. Now, before I start, this is not a diss on being a landlord. I think being a landlord is a very, very great opportunity. It gives me freedom, gives me passive income, allows me not to work for the man, not sit in a cubicle, not have a job. That said, with everything in life, you can't just have all the positive. So with every positive, there's also equal negative. So I'm making this video to let people know that being a landlord does have headaches with it. It's not something that, you may be able to find a property with no money down without any credit, like some of the strategies that I teach. But managing a property, cash flowing it, managing renters, doing evictions, etc., it can be a nightmare if you don't do it correctly. Now, personally, I've done many evictions, but I never had any nightmare evictions or nightmare tenants. And personally, myself, I love when my renters are late because I make more money. Right off the bat, when they're late on the third day, they have to pay an extra amount of percentage on the rent amount. And if you have, let's say, 10 people are late, well, then you're getting 10. If you have 20 people late, then you're getting 20. And what I really love is renters that are late, but they end up paying maybe on the 6th, on the 7th. Okay, because what happens is they pay a lump sum of money and then little carry through. But this is not about all the benefits of being a landlord. I want to talk about some of the nightmares that I personally seen by owning a property management company and seeing rookie investors or rookie eight homeowners, things they've done before they give us their property. Okay, one story is that my brokerage firm managed this gentleman. He lived in California. He had like a 1 bedroom apartment in Dallas. And, he owned the condo free and clear. He wasn't that motivated. He had a listing with us. We're managing his property. And we kept bringing him renters. And he was like, no, this renter's no good. This renter's no good. This renter's no good. This renter's no good. 6 months went by. Same story. Every renter we brought him a lot of renters. He wasn't just too motivated. So then, after a while, the listing becomes stale, and there was no more any more foot traffic. And whenever there was, the rookie investor would just decline it because I don't know. He was thinking that he was going to be able to find the perfect ideal renter, which is almost impossible because the area that he was bought wasn't that type of area. Okay, so almost a year went by, and then the seller calls us like, hey, Mike, I really need to get this house rented. I'm tired of having vacancy. But by now it's almost a year, and there's been a lot of renters we brought to their home, and he declined them all their applications. So I said, okay, we can do that. So we listed, remarketed it, and we got an agent to go show the property from a different brokerage firm. The agent goes and, to the property, and this guy lives in California, and he texts my broker and says, hey, it looks like someone's living in this property. We're like, no, this property is vacant, no. Then she's like, no, there's somebody living here. I'm not going to show it. We're like, wow, that's crazy. So we called the seller, or I keep saying the seller, but the homeowner that's a slash investor that we're managing his property. And he's like, no, I don't have anybody living here, because we thought maybe he has his friends or family or someone living in there. That's why he didn't want to, lease it out. He's like, no, there's no one living in there. We're like, holy moly, right? So that, this is all in a 24-hour span of time. The agent goes up there, says someone's living in there. The lock, she opened it up, it looked like there's stuff in there. We called the seller, I mean the owner, and he says no. So me and the broker jump in the car and we go out to the location. And when we try to open the door, the top lock is now locked up, because when the real estate agent that wasn't from our brokerage firm, from a different brokerage firm that was going to show the property, it was only the normal where you can unlock it. But this time when I went there with the broker, with our broker, the top one was locked, the bolts, they couldn't be open. We're like, holy moly, someone is living here. So anyways, we called the police, and like a storm of police come out with their guns pointed. I'm like, holy moly, like, I don't want to shoot someone up there, because it's going to be bad for this investor's property, right? If they shoot the guy, I'm like, shit, dude, it's not that serious. Just knock on the door. I'm sure the guy will just come out. But nope, the guys are pulling the door, and they're knocking on the door, and they just kick in the door. I'm like, holy moly, right? Because, man, I mean, it's not my property, but I'm still worried about this homeowner slash investor. Like, because if it was my property, I'd be pissed too. I'm like, damn, man, I just had someone in there. I didn't want you to the police to damage my property, but what can you do? So we're standing back, we're watching this shit. Everything's going through my mind. And once they knock down the door, the guy that was living there just jumps out the balcony. We're on the second floor. He just jumps out the balcony and starts booking, because me and my broker, we're just sitting there watching the cops, outside, and we just see someone just running away. And then the cops come down like, "Hey, did you see someone running away?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so they were like, "Okay, the guy's gone." They have the guns drawn. They look everywhere. But here's the craziest thing: the home wasn't vandalized, because I mean nothing was broke or anything like that. Hey guys, go ahead and click the like button. If you have any questions or comment, leave below. Uh, so, anyways, going back to the story, the home wasn't vandalized or anything like that. Someone was actually like setting up shop and living in there. But here's the most craziest thing: whoever was living in there was a scammer, was a credit card scammer. There was trash bags and trash bags of like bank statements. The police officers found like two big, you know, uh, driver licenses, like, full of different people, like, with different faces, the same name, like realistic driver licenses. I was like, holy moly, right? And was the most craziest thing to me is that, once the police broke in the door, make sure everyone's there, they didn't care about the fraud that this criminal was, you know, doing, because we kept insisting. And the next day we called and said, because there was cash bags of, you know, loan applications. And I'm like, and you could tell this guy was a professional scammer, and he was doing all this stuff. But man, the police didn't even care. And the next thing we called the station, no one really gave a fuck. And I was just like, what can you do, right? So they took all the IDs, but all the trash bags were there. We got this, we discarded that stuff because nobody wanted it, nor did they want to pursue it. But I just thought to myself, man, this is pretty crazy, because this is what happens when you have a rental property and it goes stale. Rental is like water. You don't want it to just sit there, because when it's just there, all kinds of crazy things happen. Vandalism. People can move into it. Uh, you know, insects, and all kinds of crazy shit happens, right? And you're not there all the time. You might have a water leak, water pump, and it damage your stuff. Okay, so rental properties, I think that you have to move them quick. So, for example, for me, let's say if I want to get $1,000 for a property and I get a renter in there, well, it depends on the situation. If it's a property that I just list and I get tons of people calling me, then no, I'm not gonna be, flexible. I'm gonna be very strict. But it's one of those properties I list on there, and 1 month goes by, I may only get 2 calls. Then I'm gonna be more flexible, because this is not a high demand rental area, and I should have done my homework before. And so I usually don't deal with properties like that. But if I did, then I would be more flexible if only 2 people call me in a month, versus if 50 people call me in 1 month. Okay, so the one that 50, I'm not going to be flexible. So let's say I was going to rent it out the property for $1,000. Okay, and it was one of those areas like I just told you about where my this um, home seller or homeowner that was allowing my brokerage firm to manage the property was very very picky, and he just let the property go stale. So what happened? Somebody came in there and started doing all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Because the guy, for whatever reason, wanted to have a 800 credit score. I can't remember what all his criterias were, but my broker would say, okay, this application qualifies, and we always ask the homeowner, okay, what do you think about it? And because it's their home, right? But we will scan it and qualify. They didn't qualify, we would just say no, no, no. So a lot of them will go no, but the ones we give it to him, he was still saying no because he wanted a dream renter, okay? Which I don't blame him, but if you let your home go stale, I think bad things can happen. So if I'm in a situation where I have a property, a lot of people messaging me, then no, I'm very strict. If I have a property, only two people message me in a month, and I want $1,000, and someone offers me 950, 975, I will go ahead and take it because I rather just have the property rented out, cash flow, screw 25 bucks, screw 50 bucks, right? Because it's not in a high demand area, and I don't want it to go stale because when the property is empty, that's when all hell can blow loose. What is hell? Again, water can pump, bust. You're not there. You come there in a week or 3 weeks, man. Man, now you have mold, and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. People can move into it. People can break in, take the AC. I mean, we have other rental. Let me tell you another story, okay? Um, another rental property that we managed. This was in the night part of town too. Okay, the the renters had we had done an eviction. The the renters had moved out, and the the landlord was on vacation, so we kept sending them like, "Hey, here's a renter, here's a qualified renter," but they were just out of the country, just not taking care of their business, even though we had found them qualified renters. Okay, so what happened? Their AC got stolen. Now, instead of just maybe being in a third world country, it may cost like 50 bucks or 20 bucks to do a long distance call, but should have done that because the AC cost them, let's say, 7 grand, right? And yet, that once they put that new AC in, the AC got stolen again, right? And I was like, holy moly, right? So, and this is not even a bad neighborhood. But here's the thing: once your house is stale and it's empty, and people get to see it's empty, then the risk increases dramatically. That's why in the landlording fire policy insurance, you know, um, it's more expensive when you can see because the insurance companies already know that all kinds of crazy shit can happen, right? So I've given you two examples of some crazy stuff that I've seen. One is where someone was living in there. We had to call the police and knock down the doors. Guy jumped out the balcony. He didn't damage the property or anything like that, but he was definitely a scam. The police didn't want to do anything about it. We begged them. We begged them because I knew it was wrong, but there was nothing we can do. So we just went on with our merry way. The next one was another situation where the seller was out of the country, not really caring about his property, even though we had people in place to move in. You know, that not caring got him into a $7,000 AC, which then again, not caring to put someone in there immediately, another theft happened. Um, Now let's talk about me. Now I've never had any situations where I had any nightmare renters, and I guess the reason is because I'm not an accidental rent landlord. I know how to filter. I know how to scan. I know how to qualify my renters. That said, I still had to do eviction, and just part of the business. Okay. Now all the evictions, like I do like the clockwork. If they're late 3 days, we send them their notification. They owe us this late fee. There's no mercy. And if we don't have it by a certain day, we already filed the eviction. And I don't care what their story is, what their sad story is, whatever it is, we just don't do it that way because life is not like that. Now, I'm not trying to be mean, but that's just the way I run my business because it's very, very strict. And guess what? The renters that pay on time, guess we reward them. I give them Christmas gifts and all kinds of stuff like that because I like that. I want people to have success and live in properties, and I take care of it and I respond really quick. I'm not a slumlord, but in return, I require you pay your rent on time. Not too hard to ask, but uh, I have done some evictions, but none of them were ever nightmares or anything like that. I just hired my property management, in my brokerage firm that he went and did it. Uh, Now they were, I would say, two professional um, renters, right, that knew how to appeal and go forward. But majority, I would say 50, 60% of people wouldn't even show up. So it was like easy by default. The other 40% will show up, and the judge will ask them, well, why didn't you pay rent? And they'll say some excuse, and the judge wouldn't take it. Now, in my state and many states that I've seen, the judges in these eviction courts are in the favor of the renters versus the landlord. So, I had to make sure the I's and the T's were very crossed because uh, I've seen it in other properties that we manage that, you know, those I's and T's were not crossed, and the judge will just throw it away because the judge is looking for leniency. Okay. Um, Now, let me tell you another thing that's a nightmare is that if you're trying to do evictions for like holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like that, man, the judge is like really not in your favor, man. They're just going to be delaying the eviction process. So it's never really a good time, to do evictions right on Christmas, even though people may not pay you. Because from my experience, the landlords are usually not in my favor. I have a 50% chance versus like 80 or 90% chance of winning. Now, I've never seen any nightmares where renters just tear up the place and they do all kinds of damage. I even have renters where they leave, they mail me the keys. I mean, I love them the best. They leave. I don't have to do eviction because I don't want to do an eviction on anyone. Uh, I prefer that they give me the key and they leave. Now, some people do it that way. Some people don't. Some people, when the judge rewards you as the winner, they get up and leave in 3 days. Other people don't. You have to call the constable. The constable got to go there. And I would say, out of the evictions, 50% of those people will require a constable, will require more money from me, and the other 50% will just like get up once they lose. Okay, and I would say maybe like 10% of them. So it's like 40, and 10% will just give you the keys and mail you the keys and just leave, or put it underneath the mat and call you, say, hey, I left the keys in the mailbox, which is, I love those the best because I don't really like to do evictions. And, I really do my hard work to find the best renters up front when it was for me or when we had a property management, we managed for people. But guys, real estate is not like, all groovy and groovy. There's a lot other harder businesses out there. For example, when I own a moving company, shit, it was hard, dude. It was very hard. It's bitchy customers. I mean, you know, restaurant business. Oh my god, it's very, very hard. You know what I mean. Like, there's so many moving pieces. Like, having passion as a landlord is freaking easy. I would say it's 90% easier than any other business I've done. Now, is there some ugliness to it? Yes, there's ugliness to it. That's why I'm doing this video. It's not all, you put your foot up and go to Hawaii type of stuff. And if you don't do your due diligence up front, if you don't have systems in place, then you're going to be hurting really bad. And that's why you see some of those things. But last and for least, guys, if you want to be a dream, there's risk. You can't eliminate risk. Everyone wants to do something without risk. It's never going to work. To be a dreamer, to be an entrepreneur, to be a real estate investor, to be in anything that you want to be, is going to require risk. So if you're just looking at everything like risk, there's risk here, there's risk here, there's risk here. Well, you better strap up and go to a mental institute because there's no risk there. Okay. But if you want to be just your dreams, there's going to be absolute risk. So all the fluff they tell you on TV, like not being a landlord is very scary, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. I've been a landlord. I've just brought you the most extreme cases. Now, we had so many rentals from other people we managed to my own. People pay us the money. I'm just bringing I would say that's probably like 3 to 10%, if even on that 10% on the bigger scale. Okay. Now, if you don't know anything, what I call accidental landlord, then yes, they're gonna really give it to you, right? Like really give it to you. But if you're not an accidental landlord, or if you hire a property manager, then your odds of success are a lot more. But there's still that little ugliness in there. Guys, if you have any questions, leave them in. If I can get some questions, let me see. What's going on, Karen? True Brook Investing says, do you do regular renters or rent to own tenants? Okay. Also, what do you think about rent to own tenants versus regular tenants? Okay, hey, that's a very good question. Um, I have a lot of information what I call about owner financing, where I bought the property and I create a new note, I wrap it, and get three profit zones, which is the upfront money payment, the monthly cash flow because I wrap interest rate higher than what my underlying mortgage is, and the back end when they cash out the loan. Now, that strategy where I'll buy a house, let's say subject to or seller financing, or I bought it cash, or I fixed and flipped it, whatever the story is. Okay, uh, I can turn around and become the bank and create a note and go that route. The benefits of that route is I don't have to deal with the renters, right? I don't have to deal with plumbing. I don't have to deal with the headaches of all that crap, right? Now, the cons of that is that I don't get all the appreciation, right? I don't get all the debt reduction. I don't get all the tax benefits of owning this property and depreciating and writing the interest off because the renters are paying, but the loan is under. I'm making the loan payments. It's not under my name. It's under the old existing seller name, but I'm making the payments, so I get the tax benefits. Okay, so I don't get all that. Okay, also control. If the renter doesn't pay me 1 month, on the third day I'll charge them extra for late fees, and a certain day past that I'll do the eviction. Wow, it's very easy. Doesn't cost me a lot of money. Okay, well, but on the owner finances side, when I create a note and I sell the property and I become the bank, the lender, well, if I want to do a foreclosure, it's going to cost me a lot more than an eviction, and there's more red tape and more policy and bureaucracy and all that stuff I have to deal with, right? But so it depends on your situation. They're both great tools to have. If you're like in a situation where you have a successful business and you're making a lot of money, they're probably going to stick to being a landlord because you get a lot of tax benefits. I'm not a CPA. I'm not trying to give any financial advice, but I'm giving you my rationale. Okay. If you're in a situation where you don't want to deal with you, if the deal doesn't, it's not a real good monthly cash flow, then you be only stuck with one exit strategy, which is doing owner financing and get the upfront money and a down payment form, etc. So both are great strategies. It depends on the deal. It depends on your own personal situation. There's so many different stuff, and I'm not a financial advisor, but I like both strategies. Now, which one do I prefer? In the last crash, like I said, so I was a more of a landlord. But in this new crash, I am going to create the notes. I don't want to deal with being the landlord. I don't have the property management anymore, nor do I want it. It's so labor intense, so much politicians, laws, crappy stuff. I don't want to I don't want to have a business like that. I rather just hang out with my kids. So, in that sense, in this crash, I'm gonna create more where I buy the house, hopefully subject to or at a deep discount. I turn it around, create a note, sell it to someone that's owner financing. I ask them for 20 grand down. I'm making monthly cash flow from it, and at the end of the day, they'll cash me out. So I'm gonna have three profit zones. I don't have to deal with the ACs. I don't have to deal with the plumbing. Uh, there's a little bit more accounting work goes with that aspect. There's a little bit less control, but at the same time, I have less headaches, and I think it's going to work perfectly for me this year. But great question, man. Great question. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. Go ahead and click the like button, guys. All right. I got another question. Someone said, "Hey, Mike, what do you mean you take over someone's payments?" Okay. Well, it's a strategy called subject to. What is subject to? Owner financing. Now, there's many different types of owner financing. For example, there's a subject to, there's a wrap, there's a lease option, there's options, master lease. I mean, I can go on. There's many different ways to do owner financing. Owner financing is a mile deep. Okay, depends on your creativity. So, a subject to is when the seller has a mortgage, and I just take over their payments. If the seller doesn't have a mortgage, I'm just going to do straight seller financing. Okay, where they become my bank, just like this one. But these people don't have a mortgage. But these people have a mortgage. Pretty simple. Okay. There's a lot of I's and T's that must be done correctly. Oh, before I forget, ladies and gentlemen, profit sharing. We're meeting tomorrow at 10 to 11 every Saturday, guys, at 10 to 11. I help you find deals in your local area. Doesn't matter if you're trying to find subject to deals, wrap deals, lease options, you're trying to fix and flip, you want to be a landlord, whatever it is, I can help you. I've been an entrepreneur since high school, never had a job, activity, imagination. which means that you don't need hard money lending, you don't need a bank, you don't need a credit card, and you don't need debt. Okay, you will need a little money to join the profit sharing. Right now, we're having a flash sale for $71 a month, guys. $7 a month. That's less than $20 a meeting. You can go to all these REI clubs out there where they have a sales guy that's going to sell you on their service, or you can join for sharing, and we can do deals, and we'll split 9 deals. So you can bet I have a vested interest for you to make money, because if when you get a paycheck, that's when we're going to split it, right? So profit sharing, profitsharing.mrnofluff.com, or just go to mrnofluff.com. Join today. There's limited amount of seats, and the price is going to go up, guys, soon. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a comment. Much love to you guys. See ya.